As we age, it's natural to forget a name or misplace our keys. But some phrases, simple words, can hint at something far more serious. In today's video, we'll uncover 9 disturbing things seniors say that may predict the early signs of dementia. These aren't just slip-ups. They could be warnings. And the earlier you notice them, the better. Memory lapses like forgetting a name or misplacing keys are common, especially with age. But when a senior becomes confused about their location, particularly in familiar settings, it can be a serious red flag. If someone suddenly can't recall how they arrived somewhere, or seems disoriented in a place they've been countless times, it may indicate issues with spatial awareness or short-term memory. This type of disorientation goes beyond normal forgetfulness and could signal the early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. Spatial memory helps us navigate the world around us, and when it's impaired, even routine trips to the grocery store or walking around the neighborhood can become confusing or distressing. If you or a loved one is experiencing this kind of confusion, it's important to seek medical advice early. Early detection can lead to better support, treatment options, and planning for the future. Awareness is key, so don't ignore the signs. Paranoia and confusion about familiar faces can be deeply unsettling, not just for the person experiencing them, but also for family and friends. When a loved one begins to see those closest to them as strangers or even intruders, it often signals more serious cognitive decline, potentially associated with conditions like Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia. This type of behavior stems from the brain's inability to correctly process or retrieve familiar memories, leading to delusions or misidentification. It can result in fear, mistrust, or withdrawal from once comforting relationships, making daily interactions incredibly challenging. While occasional confusion can happen with aging, persistent or escalating paranoia, especially involving people they know well, should not be ignored. It's a strong indicator that professional evaluation is needed. Early intervention can provide clarity, treatment options, and much-needed support for both the individual and their caregivers. If you've noticed this in someone you love, don't wait. Reach out, document the changes, and consult a healthcare provider. You're not alone, and help is available. This defensive reaction is often a subtle sign of short-term memory decline. When someone insists they've already shared something, even if it's the first time you're hearing it, they're not necessarily being difficult. It's actually a way the brain attempts to fill in or cover for memory gaps, a process known as confabulation. In these moments, the person may genuinely believe they've said or done something they haven't. This can be frustrating or confusing for loved ones. But it's important to recognize that the behavior is typically not intentional or manipulative. It's the brain's way of making sense of missing information. This kind of response is common in the early stages of dementia or cognitive decline, especially when the individual starts noticing their own memory lapses and tries to protect their sense of normalcy or independence. If this pattern becomes frequent, it's worth noting and bringing up with a healthcare professional for further assessment. Compassion and patience are key. Respond gently, offer reassurance, and focus on support rather than correction. It's perfectly normal to lose track of the day or date now and then, especially during a busy week or while on vacation. But when someone repeatedly forgets the time of day, the season, or even the current year, it can be a sign of something more serious. Disorientation in time, a well-known early warning sign of dementia. This kind of confusion goes beyond simple forgetfulness. It reflects a disruption in the brain's ability to process and anchor information, making it difficult for the person to understand where they are in the flow of time. They might ask what month it is several times in a day or get dressed for summer in the middle of winter. While occasional slip-ups are common, consistent disorientation, especially when paired with other cognitive changes like memory loss or confusion about places and people, warrants a deeper look. Early evaluation by a medical professional can help determine whether these signs are part of normal aging or the onset of a cognitive disorder like Alzheimer's. Staying alert to these subtle shifts can make all the difference. Early recognition means early support, which can greatly improve quality of life for both the individual and their loved ones. Struggling with vocabulary, especially with everyday simple words, is one of the more noticeable early signs of dementia. It can turn once fluid conversations into fragmented, confusing interactions. A person might start a sentence and then pause, searching for a word they can't quite find. Sometimes they'll substitute an unrelated or incorrect word, making their speech harder to follow. For example, instead of saying, "I need a fork," they might say, "I need that thing for eating," or even call it a stick. These language difficulties are not just frustrating for the person experiencing them, they can also be distressing for friends and family who don't understand what's happening. This breakdown in communication stems from changes in the brain's language centers, particularly areas responsible for word retrieval and verbal expression. As dementia progresses, the person may speak less, avoid conversations, or withdraw socially out of embarrassment or frustration. While occasional forgetfulness of a word happens to everyone, persistent and increasing difficulty with vocabulary, sentence structure, or following conversations should be taken seriously. It's a strong signal to consult a healthcare professional for cognitive evaluation. Compassionate listening and gentle patience can go a long way. If someone you love is showing these signs, offering support rather than correction can help preserve their dignity and comfort. Not recognizing familiar people, especially close family members or lifelong friends, is one of the most heartbreaking signs of dementia. It's more than simple forgetfulness. It reflects deep and significant damage to the brain's memory centers, particularly those tied to long-term recognition and emotional connection. When a loved one looks at their child, spouse, or best friend and no longer knows who they are, it can feel devastating for everyone involved. This loss of recognition often occurs in the later stages of dementia, when the brain struggles not only to recall names, but also to associate faces with memories and relationships. Sometimes the person may confuse their adult children for siblings, or think their spouse is a caregiver or stranger. These misidentifications aren't intentional. They're symptoms of a progressive breakdown in memory and perception. While incredibly painful, it's important to remember that the emotional imprint may still remain, even if the name or face is no longer clear. A gentle voice, a familiar scent, or a kind gesture can still bring comfort. If this is something you're witnessing in a loved one, know that you're not alone. Support groups, memory care professionals, and early medical intervention can help you navigate the journey with compassion and understanding. A sudden lack of motivation or interest in once loved hobbies and activities can easily be brushed off as a normal part of aging, but it may actually be a warning sign of apathy, a common and often overlooked symptom of early dementia. Unlike depression, which is usually tied to sadness or hopelessness, apathy in dementia is marked by emotional flatness and disengagement. The person may stop participating in social events, lose interest in hobbies, or seem indifferent to things that used to bring them joy. It's not that they can't do these things. It's that they no longer feel the internal drive to start or enjoy them. This change in behavior is linked to deterioration in the parts of the brain that govern motivation, initiative, and emotional response. As a result, individuals may appear lazy or withdrawn, when in reality they are experiencing a neurological shift. Because apathy often looks like depression, it can go undiagnosed. But recognizing the difference is crucial. Apathy involves a lack of interest or motivation without significant sadness. Depression typically involves low mood, guilt, or feelings of worthlessness. If you notice this kind of emotional withdrawal in someone close to you, it's important to seek a medical evaluation. Early recognition can lead to better care strategies and emotional support for both the individual and their loved ones. Apathy isn't a personality change, it's a symptom, and knowing that can make all the difference. Accusations of theft, cheating, or betrayal can be surprisingly common among seniors with cognitive decline, especially in the early to middle stages of dementia. While it may be jarring or hurtful to hear a loved one say, "You stole my money," or "Someone moved my things," these claims are often not rooted in malice, but in confusion and memory loss. When someone with dementia misplaces an item, like a wallet, keys, or even food, their brain may struggle to recall where they put it or even that they handled it at all. To make sense of the missing item, the brain may fill in the blanks with a logical explanation, like blaming others. This is a type of confabulation, where false memories are unintentionally created to cover gaps in real ones. These kinds of accusations can cause emotional strain in families and among caregivers, especially if the person is normally kind and trusting, but it's crucial to understand. This behavior stems from a neurological condition, not a change in character. Arguing or trying to convince them they're wrong often escalates frustration. Instead, respond calmly, validate their emotions, and gently redirect the conversation or help them look for the item. If this behavior becomes frequent or distressing, it's a good idea to consult a healthcare provider. Understanding what's happening in the brain helps build empathy and creates more peace for everyone involved. Perhaps the most haunting phrase of all, "I want to go home." Even when someone with dementia is physically in their home, they may still say this over and over. That's because home becomes less of a place and more of a feeling. Safety, familiarity, and a longing for the comfort of a time before confusion and memory loss took hold. This expression often reflects emotional distress, disorientation, or fear. The person may not recognize their surroundings, even if they've lived there for decades. They might be yearning for a past version of home, the one from childhood, or from a time when they still felt in control and secure. For caregivers, this can be heartbreaking to hear. But it's important to know, they're not being difficult or dramatic. They're expressing a deep emotional need. Instead of correcting them or insisting, "You are home," try gentle redirection. "Tell me about your home. What do you miss most about it? Would you like to sit and look at old photos together?" Offering reassurance, comfort, and connection can help ease that feeling of being lost, even if just for a moment. Because for someone with dementia, home isn't just a place. It's a memory, a feeling, a refuge, and above all, a longing to feel safe again. These phrases may seem innocent on their own, isolated moments of forgetfulness or confusion. But when they start to appear together, they form a pattern, one that should never be brushed aside or chalked up to just getting older. Each phrase, "I want to go home," "You stole from me," "Who are you again?" can signal deeper changes in the brain. They are often the earliest whispers of dementia, quietly eroding memory, orientation, and identity. Early detection matters. Recognizing the signs early can lead to access to better treatment options, more time to plan and make decisions together, opportunities to create and preserve precious memories, vital support for caregivers and families. If you're starting to hear these patterns in someone you love, or even in yourself, don't wait. Talk to a healthcare professional. The sooner dementia is identified, the more support and guidance you can receive. Because while we can't stop time, we can take steps to protect the moments that matter most.